In a world where dreams seem fragile and fate often seems uncertain, there was one man whose journey from dreamer to ruler would defy every odd. This is the story of Joseph, a boy whose dreams ignited a path to greatness, a path marked by betrayal, struggle, and ultimately destiny. Joseph was a young man, filled with visions that others could hardly understand. He dreamed of greatness, of leadership, of power. But to his brothers, these dreams were a threat to the status quo, a threat to their pride. His dream, one of rising above them all, became the seed of their jealousy. His father, Jacob, loved Joseph more than any of his sons, and his coat of many colors was a symbol of that love. But to his brothers, it was a symbol of something else, something darker. They resented him for the attention and affection he received from their father. And as time went on, that resentment grew, feeding into their hatred. One day, driven by envy and hatred, Joseph's brothers decided to rid themselves of him. They cast him into a pit, thinking they'd never see him again. But the story doesn't end in that pit. Joseph's life had a purpose beyond what his brothers could see, beyond what anyone could understand. They sold him into slavery, and he was taken to Egypt, far from home, far from his father, far from the dreams he once had. His brothers thought that was the end, that they had severed his future. But what they didn't know was that the very act of betrayal was the beginning of something greater. But Joseph didn't give up. Even in Egypt, a foreign land, Joseph's spirit didn't break. He was sold to a man named Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, and though his situation seemed bleak, Joseph rose. His hard work, integrity, and wisdom soon gained Potiphar's trust. He was given more responsibility, a position of authority in his master's house. But fate wasn't finished with Joseph yet. Potiphar's wife, seeing Joseph's good looks and charm, tried to seduce him. Joseph refused, knowing the value of integrity and loyalty. In a rage, she accused him of trying to assault her, and Joseph was thrown into prison. Another blow, another trial. But Joseph's character never wavered. He didn't lose hope. He knew that his dreams were bigger than any obstacle. But even in prison, Joseph didn't crumble. He rose again. His gifts of interpreting dreams were noticed by the Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, who were thrown into prison. Joseph interpreted their dreams accurately, one being restored to his position, the other facing execution. Yet Joseph's life seemed to remain in limbo, the hope of his dream still distant. But Joseph never lost faith, never lost his drive. He didn't let his circumstances define him. Instead, he worked diligently and stayed true to his values. He knew that even in the darkest moments, the seeds of his destiny were still being planted. 2 years later, Pharaoh had a dream that none of his wise men could interpret. The cupbearer remembered Joseph and told Pharaoh. Joseph was brought before the king, and through God's guidance, Joseph interpreted the dream. 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh, impressed by Joseph's wisdom, appointed him as second in command over all of Egypt, tasked with preparing the nation for the coming famine. Joseph's rise was nothing short of miraculous. From a prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt, he had gone from the pit to the palace, and in the process, his dreams were starting to unfold. Joseph's life had come full circle. From the pit to slavery to prison, he had risen to power. He was now in charge of the very nation that once held him captive. But his destiny was not yet complete. The famine Joseph had predicted began to take hold, not just in Egypt, but across the lands. His brothers, the same ones who had cast him aside, came to Egypt seeking food. They didn't recognize the man who now stood before them, the man who had once been their naive brother. The roles had reversed, and now Joseph had the power to decide their fate. Joseph could have sought revenge, could have turned them away, could have shown them what it felt like to be betrayed. But instead, he chose mercy. He revealed himself to his brothers, and through tears, forgiveness, and reconciliation, Joseph showed them that what was meant for evil had turned into something far greater. It was through his trials that Joseph had become the man he was meant to be, a man with the power to save not only his family, but an entire nation. His brothers, ashamed and fearful, feared that Joseph would take retribution. But Joseph showed them love, healing the wounds that once tore his family apart. Joseph's journey is a story of dreams, but more importantly, it's a story of destiny. a destiny that was not defined by the circumstances he faced, but by his unwavering faith and resilience. From the dreams of a young boy to the ruler of Egypt, Joseph's life teaches us that no matter how dark the path, destiny will find its way if we hold on to hope, stay true to ourselves, and trust the process. His dreams weren't just visions, they were prophecies that changed the course of history, showing us that no matter the obstacles, we are always closer to our destiny than we think. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more updates.